Geologists have discovered cave paintings in the Lacoux complex of France that depict individuals sprinting and wrestling. These paintings date back to the Upper Paleolithic period 15,000 years ago. Similar paintings in the Bayankhongar province of Mongolia in the Neolithic age show evidence of swimming and archery being practiced in 10,000 BC, and in Japan, there are paintings that depict a sport similar to sumo wrestling. But only in 776 BC, with events such as foot and chariot races, wrestling, jumping, discus and javelin throwing, the ancient Greeks introduced formal sports events to the world by organizing the first Olympic Games. In the thousands of years that humanity spent inventing sport, across the Mediterranean and over the Holy Lands in Mesopotamia, the oldest evidence of beer is believed to be a 6,000-year-old Sumerian tablet depicting people consuming a drink through reed straws from a communal bowl, a tradition carried to this day at the iconic Madison, Wisconsin drinking establishment Wando's with their popular fish bowls. Later, a 3,900-year-old Sumerian poem honoring Ninkasi, the patron goddess of brewing, and Pacific Northwest brewer carrying the same name, contains the oldest surviving beer recipe describing the production of beer, bread made from barley. 6,000 years after the invention of beer and 17,000 years after sport, in the year of our Lord 2004, a new media form was developed when Adam Curry, former MTV video jockey, and software developer Dave Weiner coded a program called iPodder, which enabled users to download internet radio broadcasts to their iPods. Journalist Ben Hammersley soon coined the term podcasting to describe the potential for a boom in amateur radio, arguing that the two top ingredients were now in place: blogging and MP3 players. Now, 17,000 years in the making, 3 more pop culture ingredients are in place: beer, sports, and podcasting. What better way to illustrate this epoch than for Cold Cans, an entertainment podcast about beer, to welcome back Athletic Brewing, this time with John Walker, the head brewer and co-founder of Athletic Brewing Company. Maybe we'll ask him about all this. I honestly and truly hope we don't. Today on the show, Aftershift IPA by Athletic Brewing. What do you think?
What an intro. Cheers. I can tell you didn't get much work done today, and we're simply writing a perfect intro.
I had enough to do today, but decided to do this instead.
Smart.
This is good.
Yeah, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out. I know we're drinking it out of cans. The name of the show is Cold Cans.
Cold Cans.
But
they are cold.
Joey was a nice little Santa Claus this year and got old Nick P a beer drinking glass.
Ho, ho, ho.
I'm going to go get it. Tell the listeners about it.
All right. So this is a glass that you can drink beer out of.
No, it's special, right?
It's very special. So this is a glass. This is like an all-purpose beer drinking glass. I did some level of research here because for my good buddy Nick, I got to get the perfect gift, and I got him popcorn butter salt from Portland, and a beer drinking glass for any type of beer. So it's not perfect for any individual type of beer, but this will do you for all types of beer. Here, let me get a pic of Nick.
Get a pic. It's a bad pour, folks, but I will say the only critique I have of this glass, other than that it came from you.
Oh, come on.
Is that I think it's a 12-ounce glass.
Yeah.
It's not a pint. So
yeah, you got to split it up, Nick. Stop drinking so quickly.
But I've loved it so far. It's a nice, classy thing. I got a stem on it, so I'm not warming up that beer with my hand.
That's right.
And if we knew more about what different types of beer glasses were and why they fit different types of beer, then we could talk about all the complexities of this glass. But we don't. So instead, I just drink it.
My cursory research, there's obviously like the carbonation is being funneled. So there's a big fat bottom glass.
Hey,
you make the rockin' word go
charged.
round. And then instead of it just sort of funneling up to a point, there's a little bit of a lip at the top, and that's mostly for you to just more easily drink.
You've got a little bit of lip at top too.
Oh, are you condemning me, saying don't give me that lip, or are you looking at my beautiful lips from across the table?
Yeah.
It's been a long isolation for all of us here.
It's a beautiful glass. Thank you. I'm going to drink this beer out of it.
Gorgeous glass.
Also drink it out of this beautiful can.
Yes. So Athletic Brewing's Aftershift. This is a Chef Chris Cosentino collab. which we'll get into. We're about to interview John Walker.
Yeah.
Now, what we didn't ask him is about his name, Johnny Walker.
I thought we were going to bring up this hack shit on the podcast.
We're not hacks, but it's something you could ask. He'd have to roll his eyes and answer. But we didn't.
It's funny, too, because Flying Lion Brewery in Seattle, I think he's one of the co-owners, or he's at least the brother of a co-owner. His name is Evan Williams. Now, that makes you think.
Now, if Evan Williams and John Walker paired up.
No, Evan Williams and John Walker walk into a bar, and they're talking about beer.
Good. That's a good one, Uncle. Uncle Dan. That's a really good joke.
Okay,
it's so topical, but it also it takes you for a surprise because they're talking about beer instead of what they normally make.
And you're assuming your listeners know all the varieties of run-of-the-mill whiskey.
So listeners, in this world, Uncle Dave is a podcaster. He's telling these jokes.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about...
I guess Johnny Walker's not a run-of-the-mill. That's like a...
No, that's a
step above
Evan Williams is not good. I mean, Evan Williams, the brewer, I'm sure, is great.
Yes.
Evan Williams, the drink, is... I have had many hungover mornings after hitting the Evan Williams bottle a little too hard. Back in college, not anymore.
So you said you liked the beer initially?
I really did. That first taste is great. So it's got a like an acidity and a fruitiness to it, which is, I think, obviously intentional. But every fruity beer we've had, I feel like it's like 70% of the time I'm kind of gritting through the whole podcast. Not grinning, gritting.
Oh.
Like Gritty, the mascot. Because I can't handle that like artificial fruity juiciness. I don't like it whatsoever.
Okay, does one particular beer come to mind when you think of the artificial fruity?
Pineapple one we did with the Princess of Pineapple. Shout out to
certainly.
Shout out to the Princess of Pineapples. Thank you for being on the show years ago. This, however, and when you strike the balance right.
Wow.
I like it a lot. Really good hazy IPAs do this, where there's a fruitiness to them that almost comes purely from the hops. In this case, I think it is slightly more fruity than just your typical kind of hazy IPA, but it strikes a nice balance. I really popped when I took that first drink.
Sure,
I would have done a bunch of bullshit where I've been like, yeah, this is good, if I didn't like it, because you want to do right by the guest and by the beer. I legitimately, honestly, really
and you're
like
a liar. You always will lie.
It's showbiz, baby. It's an entertainment podcast. Subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, I primarily get the lemon verbena, I think, when I'm drinking this.
Yeah.
And then bay leaves are a nice complement to that. And this is nice to me, too. I'm not...
Bay leaves.
Yeah.
I missed that reading it, and that is absolutely what you're getting in that.
And you know what? I hope bay never leaves.
Yeah. B-A-E.
Yeah. So our Patreon is...
Bay leaves. What do you think about cooking with bay leaves? Isn't it kind of weird?
Wow. Here we go.
Don't you feel like most like when you take thyme or something, sprigs of thyme out of your cooking?
Oh, see, I thought you meant
Jesus
thyme.
Christ.
Like,
no.
Yeah,
I know, Uncle. I do. Thyme, sprigs of thyme. Thyme. That'd be fun if you were cooking and you were using thyme, that every time you sprung a little in, you went, thyme! I think everyone around you'd have a lot of fun with it. No, sprigs of it, you take it out, they look like they're spent. When you take a bay leaf out, it's still just a bay leaf. I'm like, what did I even...
Oh, yeah, I tuck it right in my lip.
Oh, wow.
I chew it down and tuck it in my lip.
Does it do anything at all?
Oh, it's the best high I've ever had, Joe.
Oh, no, a cooked bay leaf from a nice chicken stock.
So you're saying the bay leaf...
I feel like it just hasn't done its job yet.
Oh.
I take it out, I'm like, what have you done? You're still green.
But you taste it. Certainly you can taste the difference.
You can taste it. I'm saying while I cook, I take it out. I'm like, did you do your job? Because it looks like you didn't do anything at all. That's what I think about with a bay leaf. Is this a good bit?
I don't think so.
I actually do kind of think that when I cook with bay leaves. I don't get the sense that it actively cooked.
I mean, it's sort of just releasing its leaf essence, right?
It's one of the very few things you take the whole sprig or leaf out when you cook with it. It doesn't dissolve. It doesn't kind of go into the stock. You just take it out.
Yeah, well, you do the same with thyme sprigs.
Time! but they look like they're spent a little bit. Like when you take them out, they're pretty much just the stems. You pick out the seeds and stems. It's just the stems. What are we doing? Time!
You're the one that brought up all this
bay leaf stuff. You were doing your bay, I hope bay never leaves joke.
I think.
Which is every bit as good as what I was doing.
You're right. You're every bit as good. Okay, what else about this beer, Joe? Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about Dry January. So this, of course, is an NA, non-alcoholic beer, and it's become pretty popular, I think, for people after the holidays in January to just like take a step back, maybe stop drinking altogether or find another way to cut back.
Yeah, I personally don't take as hard of a stance of like, I'm just not going to drink anything for a month.
Sure.
But I will cut out all my little weekday adventures. So if I'm thinking it's a Wednesday, I'm gonna crack a beer. I don't do it in January. So I just stick to the Friday, Saturday nights, Sundays through Thursdays. I'm generally not drinking.
Nice.
And I'm not drinking a ton on Friday and Saturday nights, but that's what I'll allow myself.
And that's part of the benefit, right? Like you get a buzz much more quickly if you're not drinking every day of the week.
This is a life I should live. Not that I normally drink every night of the week, but normally like maybe once or twice during the week I'll have a beer or two.
Yeah.
And I'm cutting that all together. Better the waistline, better for mental clarity, I guess. That said, if you really are limiting yourself, I don't think you notice really any difference.
You mean if you're limiting rather than
normally,
totally cutting
if you're normally rationing yourself to
Sure.
just like a beer at dinner or whatever, you're not really going to notice a difference.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think the Dry January thing it's something I think more for people who are doing it to talk about the fact that they're doing it more than it actually improves anybody's life.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Dry January, sorry, I'll have to pass on that.
And this year, more than ever, it's like a big social media thing, right? Like, which is fine. I get people find community in that way. It's
totally.
Whatever, but I get why you're annoyed by it. I haven't really cut back after the holidays.
Wow.
But I also am not drinking every night of the week. So I don't know. I just don't.
I offered you a beer when I came in here and you said, put it in the fridge. Maybe you can drink it later. That's what you said.
Well, that's because of the gluten thing, not because I was drinking a 7% cider when you walked in.
That is true.
And it's Monday night.
Well, then I cracked that beer. And I prefaced when I gave it to you, I said, I know the gluten thing.
You did. You remembered.
I remembered. But I really enjoyed this beer. This was by, I can't remember.
Chain Line.
Chain Line out of Kirkland, a good IPA. But back to Aftershift.
Yes.
I had not tried this before today's episode. I've tried their Run Wild.
Right, same.
Yep, I've tried their lagers and stuff like that, the blonde that they have. I really, really like this. It's not something I would drink many of at once. I wouldn't.
Yep.
But the nature of NA beers, at least for me, like I'm not swigging them back. It's something I'm sprinkling in or that I'm maybe enjoying after dinner or after work.
Not
and this
swigging,
works
you're
perfect
sprinkling.
for that.
Is that a new thing?
Not swigging, I'm sprinkling?
Yeah. That can be our new thing.
Not swimming. I'm not
That's
swigging.
That's a t-shirt.
We can make more merch. We made these pint glasses, Nick, and we said we were going to make shirts, and then we just haven't. We've seen each other plenty. We've talked about the show plenty. We just haven't made them.
I sent over a few mock-ups just so Cold Cans Nation knows what's going on behind the scenes here. I sent over some mock-ups. They looked like trash, but you got to start somewhere.
And you thought, did you want me to riff on them?
Yeah.
I'm terrible at design, though. I can't riff on them with you.
Well, I think, what we're discovering is we need to pay someone to do the design, but we don't want to do.
No.
Because that Patreon's not getting hit hard enough.
No, and that small business association loan had to be paid off.
No, I'm friends with Mnuchin. I can get it forgiven.
You're on the pardon list?
Yeah. Nice. And this reminds me, so we're in the midst of, there's a lot of stuff happening in the country right now. Wild insurrections and also politicians, being complicit in a lot of it.
Of course.
We'll see how it all shakes out. And one of the things is certain platforms have been deplatformed, I guess.
Yeah, everyone knows. Parlor. You're getting that parlor because I said pardon.
Yeah.
And you're going to do something here.
This came to mind. It's not even a joke. I was genuinely curious. I saw someone tweet I'm surprised by how many people pronounce it parlor. Is it parlay? How do they pronounce it?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know
give
either.
a shit. Fuck this platform.
This
I
is
would have
just
thought
a
it was
curiosity
parlor.
thing. I thought it was parlor too.
So it's parlay?
It must be. Like, how else would you pronounce that?
Bleh. Lame.
Agreed.
Fuck that whole platform and fuck anybody.
Well, agreed.
Fuck anybody who thinks it's a First Amendment issue. They can all just fuck right off.
Yeah, you do see the misunderstanding of the Constitution online.
You certainly do. You can't put like snuff videos on YouTube and nobody's complaining. Nobody's like, this is a First Amendment atrocity.
Right.
You can, again, anybody in the fucking world can start a podcast. It's completely unregulated at any time. And we're like, America really doesn't even have a First Amendment anymore. You know that? And these people are saying that on Fox News, who gives them an unlimited platform to come on.
Tens of millions of viewers.
Unfucking believable.
Anyway,
don't believe it. If you're out there, Cold Cats Nation, starting to believe like, maybe this is bad that Parler was shut down. Don't believe that. You're wrong.
I mean, obviously, there are discussions to be had around the fact that, like, Twitter and Facebook have such control over, people reaching people, politicians reaching people, that sort of thing, leaders reaching people. That's a discussion to be had, but it's not it's not a First Amendment issue.
That's exactly right. That's a problem in and of itself that they have this level of control and obviously have their own policies. They're a website, twitter.com. They can have policies. They can be like, I don't like this guy. I'm taking him off. That's what you can do as a website. The real problem is, why do 3 places have all the control of how information is spread? But it's not a First Amendment problem.
Right.
It's like a monopoly problem.
Right. Bust him up, says Joe.
Job. I had my Joe Biden hat I wore here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've seen it before. I like it.
Okay.
It's a nice hat.
All right.
I would never treat politician like a celebrity or someone I idolize. So I'm better than you, but I do like the hat on you. It fits you. Cool.
And I shit on all the Trump hats and then bought myself a Joe hat. So Trump hats are gross. Of course they are.
I mean, and I didn't mean to like make it seem like those two are the same person. They're obviously not the same people.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're different. What did you want to talk about, Nick?
I thought you had something.
We have the interview queued up
coming up.
It's an excellent conversation.
Yes,
where you'll actually learn something about this beer instead of this bullshit.
Yeah, no, John was great too. I mean, just super obviously knowledgeable about his craft and everything like that. And just similar to the experience we had with Bill Schufelt on this show.
Yep,
the co-founder of Athletic, just nice and approachable and empathetic to their consumers' desires and needs and why they're turning to these beers.
Yep.
It feels like they're so in touch with that.
Yeah, and I think with that empathy, they're also very articulate. They can get their message across really well.
Totally.
And so it all just feels great talking with them and learning about what they're doing. And yeah, there's nothing amiss about Athletic. It's growing. They have a healthy curiosity. They have a noble goal to have more people enjoy beer without getting fogged up by the alcohol.
Yeah,
there's really nothing not to like about it. And this particular beer is probably I think I still like Run Wild IPA just because of how practical it is and how fucking good it is. But as far as a special collab that they're doing. And you bring this up in the interview, Nick, that they're making beers at just an incredible clip, different types of beers. This is probably my favorite kind of,
non-special one they've done.
Yeah, thank you.
Special
run type of beer.
Yeah. Let's cut to the interview right now. Why not? We'll come back after and do our ranking and stuff like that.
So you'll get the interview after the break.
All right, as we mentioned, today we're talking with John Walker, the head brewer and co-founder of Athletic Brewing. John, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So just a little background on John. There's actually a great podcast from Athletic Brewing called Without Compromise. If you want to get a deeper dive on his background, go check that out. But basically, he was a head brewer at 2nd Street Brewery in Santa Fe, New Mexico for 6 years before he moved on to Athletic. And 2nd Street, just so the audience knows, was a full alcohol brewery. Is that correct, John?
Yeah. We had 3 pubs and 2 breweries by the time I left.
Awesome.
Wow.
And then you moved to Athletic. So I'd really, which is a non-alcoholic brewery. So I'd really like to get just a brief, like what your motivation was for that, and like why the call to like a non-alcoholic brewery connected with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first and foremost, it was honestly the introduction to Bill. He was super passionate about the project when I met him, and he was also very, humble in his approach. I think that he had maybe a tough time kind of talking to people about it because the industry wasn't super receptive to non-alcoholic beer at the time. Mm-hmm. But, he came and, I mean, the plan was so thoughtful. It was just mission-driven, positive. It was like impacting people's lives in a positive way. And at the same time, 100% embracing everything that I loved about craft beer, which was just like innovation, community, striving for quality, and just embracing the craft. And his whole thing was like, I don't want to do it the way it's always been done. So here's the challenge. Like, let's figure this thing out together and make it work a new way. And I was like, the kind of like sparks flew, and I was like, okay, well, challenge accepted. And also he seemed like a really great guy to work with. And so it was kind of a combination of that and just the love for exploration. But also, I grew up with non-alcoholic beer in my house, alongside alcoholic beer, and my dad would go back and forth between the two. So it wasn't that foreign to me,
Gotcha.
as it is for a lot of people. But I saw the need for it in culture, and especially growing up in food and beverage. People are not always that healthy or mindful, and I know that people can and want to do better, and they probably would if they're given better alternatives. So it just kind of resonated with me in that realm, and also, being a young dad, wanting to be active with kids and present and all that. So
nice. And I want to go back to what you mentioned about your dad. We've talked about on this show about athletic brewing, basically like how that would fit into our beer drinking, essentially, and we talked about the concept of a pacer or replacer. So basically, if you're having a few normal alcoholic beers, you might sprinkle in an athletic brewing or two to just, keep your wits about you and have a better day. Or you just totally are not drinking alcohol at the time, and so you're totally replacing it with a non-alcoholic. Do you remember, like, growing up, was that in your household? Was it, he's sort of like, some days you wanted alcohol, some days you didn't, or was it just sort of like just trying to stay away from alcohol but still enjoyed the taste of beer?
I think it was probably a combination of both, and sometimes it was probably just whatever was in the fridge. But I do, if I'm really thinking hard about it, I'm thinking that it's because he wanted to not have alcohol at the time. And so that was the choice. That was the impetus for having that in the house.
Nice.
I think when I first started thinking about NA beers, like before we did Athletic, we did like O'Doul's, which sort of just tasted bad. So then I was like, well, I don't like NA beers because I didn't like O'Doul's. I didn't know that there was anybody out there kind of innovating, anybody trying to make a good tasting IPA or anything like that. And so I didn't totally see the point. I thought that the reason I like beer is that I like the taste of a beer, but I also, want to get a little buzz on a Friday night or whatever it was. Then I started, not just for the show, but I started seeing it around. So I bought some Athletic, brought some other NA beers. There's one imported from Germany that I can't think of off the top of my head that I also really like. Anyway, I was buying some NA beers personally and realized, like, I just like a beer in the same way that I like a green tea in the afternoon or something. Like after work, I want a beer, and I genuinely don't really care about the alcohol in a lot of the contexts that I drink beer. And so it fits really well, on a Tuesday or something like that. And sometimes it's a taste thing. Like alcohol is almost irrelevant to me for a lot of the times I'm cracking open a beer. Now, of course, if we're going to, we're going to go out to the bars and turn one on, whatever. That's
I think Cold Cans Nation knows that about you.
Sure. But at the same time, I didn't realize how big of a piece of the pie NA beers would serve for me. I didn't realize how much I literally was curious and enjoyed the taste of beer until I started drinking them without the element of alcohol in them. I don't know. I don't know if there's even a point there. But in general, I didn't realize how much and this isn't even just sucking up to the head brewer and co-founder of Athletic Brewing. I honestly didn't know how much of a role this had in my life until it did have a role.
And I would love to get your response to that, John. And it reminds me of one thing you said on that Athletic podcast. You said a lot of people many people will discover about themselves they're not necessarily a huge fan of alcohol, but they're fans of like malt and hops and the different flavors that they can get from those. And that's why they're drawn to Athletic.
Yeah. I that's just what I was thinking about when you were talking about that. And it's like people love these ingredients and they love the ritual.
Yeah.
And, just like you get home and it's cracking something and holding that like fizzy, cold, carbonated liquid up to your lips.
Totally.
To like paint the picture. And there's that like slight burn in the back of your throat. It's just like quenching and refreshing. And it doesn't matter what it is.
Absolutely.
The alcohol is kind of like arbitrary.
And
20 minutes later when you're not burning yourself on the stove, like, it's probably better.
To piggyback on that feeling of cracking open the cold beer, especially during COVID, where, I'm fortunate to have, kept my employment but I work from home now and I used to go into the office and there was this kind of ritualistic transition period between the commute from the office and home. And that did that break for me where I was no longer in the office. I was no longer working. Now I'm home with, my wife, my dog and my cat, and I'm just enjoying the evening. Working from home meant that I didn't have that break at all anymore. Then I realized, oh shit, that break can be cracking open a cold beer. Well, this is problematic. Now I'm cracking open a cold beer 7 nights of the week and I'm drinking too much. And again, I realized like I wasn't chasing the alcohol at all. I was exactly what John just said. Like I was chasing that kind of, I'm done with work. Maybe I did my workout. I did whatever else like I wanted to do that day. I'm going to start cooking dinner or whatever, start eating dinner. And the cold beer sounds great. And I would prevent myself from doing it because there was alcohol in it and I didn't want to be drinking alcohol every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now there's that option. And again, it's something that I don't think I was in the mindset. I don't even know if I would have been in the mindset, to be completely transparent, before COVID to realize this about myself until the uniqueness of this situation came about.
Yeah, no, super interesting. But I'm glad it's working, and I'm glad it's available. And it's like that old Rogaine commercial, but like I am truly like, a customer, and I 100% feel that way about it.
Which Rogaine commercial? I don't know what you're talking about.
I love this reference, and I don't know.
Do you remember the one where he's like, not only am I the founder, I'm like a member of the Hair Club for Men or something.
Oh yeah, okay, I have seen that. Yeah.
I'm dating myself. I realize.
It is shocking that neither Joey or I knew a TV commercial.
As fans of pop culture, Nick works in the advertising business. Both of us were like, how do we not know this reference? I saw that look in your face.
But that brings to mind, like, do you have a favorite Athletic Brewing company beer?
I think I hold the cores near and dear to my heart. So like the Run Wild and the Upside Dawn. They were both kind of built basically to be kind of like a timeless classic that could be enjoyed anytime, all time, and hopefully wouldn't like fall in and out of trend. And so I love those characteristics within them. Past that, our seasonals that we have out, I love those. The fact that we were able to nail a sour beer in a non-alcoholic format was a feat.
Nice.
And
which was that your blackberry one, or which one was that?
Yeah, so we've done a couple now. We've got the blackberry Berliner Weiss, and then we have a Goza that works really well. It's like the most refreshing thing in the world.
Awesome. Yeah, I had the blackberry one back during this past summer or whenever it came out, and it was delicious.
Awesome. Past that, we have so much creative stuff coming out that it's hard to stay on top of.
I wanted to ask about that too. How are you making so many different varieties of beer all the time? I know you guys have different like barrel capacity setups and stuff. Like what does that planning process look like? And then how do you fit in this much brewing of, because we'll mention it another time in the show, but you are constantly coming out with different beer varieties through the pilot program and just releasing them on the website widely. Like what does that process look like?
So it's really just the team, and everybody's creative, and we have this unique process that's it's our process, and it's special, and it took a long time to build, but
yeah,
it's a process that allows us to, it grants us flexibility in the creation process, just like any other normal brewer. At a brew pub, you got 12 beers on at any time because the process is forgiving and malleable, and you can play with it. And so we've got that, which is a huge asset, because old school traditional NA production is like you have to make the beer, and then you have to remove the alcohol from the beer, and then you have to do this other stuff. But we don't. So we've got time. We also have a pilot system at both facilities, and we've got like 18 full-time brewers now who are all super experienced and have just a ton of curiosity. And we've kind of like opened up Pandora's box in terms of creation, because all these people had been producing these things in alcoholic format, and now you just give them the keys and you're like, okay, well, you can do all those things again in a non-alcoholic format, and the mice will play. So to a certain extent, it's just kind of letting everybody have the freedom that they want to create and take risks. If it doesn't work out, we throw it away, no big deal. But past that, we have a pretty busy R&D platform where we're working on collaborations and new flavors, new hops, doing some educational series. And so there's a combination of just freedom and then a little bit of structure.
Nice. That's kind of the question that came to mind when you were talking through that. Like, what is the end result of your R&D program? Are you guys thinking about like, let's try to find, the next segment we want to get into, let's try to find the next best seller? Or is this just a cultural, we want to create all the time? Like, this isn't because we're sort of the first, 3, 5, 10 years in our company, and once we become an established brand, we'll stop doing that. Are you trying to say, no, culturally, we're always going to be experimenting, and not just experimenting internally, but releasing it to our customers? Like, that seems pretty unique to me and interesting. Is that what's going through your guys' strategy?
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of a no holds bar as far as creativity goes. I think we've been this successful so far because we were allowed to be creative, and we don't want to hold anybody back.
Right.
And it's akin to, again, the brew pub scenario where like all these cool ingredients, and these hop farmers are coming up with these new hops and all these new breeds and these new like heritage malts. So it's like kind of like working in a kitchen for a chef. Why would you stop, I guess?
Yeah. All this variety talk too, because it's super impressive that you guys are constantly pumping that out. We recently had a bombshell on cold cans where I actually have been told to avoid gluten by doctors. So, but I'm still going to drink beer for the good of the show.
I was going to say, a problem for a podcast host about beer, but
it makes me want to ask: Are there any plans, or have you guys tried out any NA gluten-free beer combos?
So we don't have any gluten-free yet, because we don't have a facility dedicated to gluten-free.
Sure.
And, but to that end, most of our products are generally pretty low in the gluten content range. And then we also have a gluten-reduced golden ale. So that's our flagship Upside Dawn. So that is effectively gluten-reduced. It's under 20 parts per million. Every single batch is lab tested to under 20 parts per million of gluten.
Wow. Nice. Okay. Well, that'll be my go-to athletic brewing beer. Well, thank you for clarity on that. That's awesome.
Nick is legitimately beaming over here on this side of the fence.
That's awesome.
And another thing you mentioned was the collaborations, which is actually the beer we're drinking on today's show, the Aftershift non-alcoholic crisp IPA. It says Chef Chris Cosentino collab. Can you talk about where that came from?
Yeah, so Chef Cosentino he reached out on his own.
Oh, cool.
You probably seen him on like Top Chef and he's got restaurants all over the country. And he reached out and was like, you know what? I love your product. I love the outdoors. I'm a huge bike enthusiast. I don't drink. I want to promote like positive culture, positive vibes, and the shift to a healthier lifestyle. And so we decided to collaborate on a beer, and then to follow that up was like a really cool video series that our creative team did called Without Compromise. So he and I kind of went back and forth. This was all COVID, so it was all totally remote, but we would hop on the phone and jabber about ingredients and food and beverage. And he said he wanted a really crisp, effervescent IPA that was brewed with herbs and single hop. So we went with Cascade. And then he decided that he wanted to mimic one of his favorite sauces that he does in his restaurants, which is lemon verbena and fresh bay leaves. And so we brewed a super pale, pretty hoppy, crisp IPA that has a boatload of fresh lemon verbena and fresh bay leaves. And so it comes off, it's very pungent. It's pretty assertive and aggressive and very aromatic, obviously, with all the herbs and the hops. But for as assertive as it is super clean and cleansing to the palate. It's honestly like one of the most interesting things I've ever brewed, or ever been part of brewing, rather.
Well, Joey is our resident hop head on here, so when we do crack this thing open, he'll have the real be in heaven on the heavy hops.
I've genuinely enjoyed, again, not just because we have him on the podcast, genuinely enjoyed every hoppy beer that Athletic has offered. So
that's awesome. Thanks.
And John, would you have any? We do a segment called Parable or Terrible, where we have a food that we pair with the beer. Does anything come to mind, like with your history in the restaurant industry, and then after talking with Chef Cosentino about this one, do you have a recommendation for whether it's a snack or a full meal that you would pair with this beer?
Yeah, so a couple options. So he's got this like crazy like clam dish and broth that he does, and you can do that with this beer. It also turns out that if you don't have any good wine or liquid to cook your turkey on a Thanksgiving, this is fantastic.
Oh, nice.
This is something I ran into. You can also use this for beer can chicken. It's super aromatic and pretty complex. But past that, I'd say it's so bright and refreshing. It could really counter like a really sweet or acidic dessert or salad. But it just finishes so clean.
Awesome.
Nice. And I would assume this will be available. We have listeners out here in the Pacific Northwest. Chef Cosentino has a restaurant called Jackrabbit in Portland, which I think was somewhat recently opened. And I had that marked as something. I have a Google Maps list of places I want to go, and I independently have that marked as want to go. I did not make the connection until just now. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be parable opportunities there if you're ever in Portland, or if we have listeners in Portland, like Brooks. If you're listening right now, get to Jackrabbit once COVID lifts.
And John, we super appreciate your time today. I do just want to get an update. I think when we had Bill on, you guys had just purchased the San Diego previous Ballast Point Brewery. How's that build out going? And are you producing beer out of that location?
Yeah, we are, in fact, producing beer out of there. In miraculous fashion, that project started in February and completed ahead of schedule in May. And that was, without a doubt, 100% because of our incredible team out there, who really just did everything. It was crazy. They were so good. Still are that good. But so everything's going really great out there, and we've got a new canning line set up. We did a whole cellar expansion. We're doing a brew house expansion, and we've got an incredible team out there right now. And we finished the year in full production out there, hoping to really tap into the capacity that we have out there this year.
Awesome. Well, when the world is back to normal, I would love to go down there and check out that space. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, anytime. On the R&D note, we continue to explore and we accept challenges. So if and ever anybody ever has any crazy ideas or things that they want to see out there in the world, don't hesitate to reach out. Or we're open books, and our customer service team is really great at like getting us the information if it just pops up on an email thread. So we'd love to make everybody happy and satisfy our curiosity and continue to grow this category.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're excited to try out all the different varieties coming out of there. So thanks again. Yeah, love to see what you're doing there, and thanks for more of the backstory on the whole operation.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really appreciate you having me.
Thanks again to John Walker. He is the head brewer and co-founder of Athletic Brewing. Great guy. Great interview.
Excellent interview. Yeah. Knows what he's doing. So I feel like this brand and the next set of R&D innovations they come up with are in good hands. It's good to know that. I'll be on the lookout for more. All right. Final review.
I'll be on the lookout for more.
All right.
Okay.
We got to take this bullet train home.
We got
going to cut us
traffic coming up at the turn of the hour.
Once we get out of this pig shit podcast, we got music for you at the turn of the hour. Okay. Shut up.
Let's rank this puppy.
Oh, papa. All right.
Oh, no. All right. So, yeah, Beer Advocate, let's just get that out of the way. It only has one ranking on Beer Advocate.
This podcast has turned into like, let's get this out of the way.
That's how I view life in general,
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
So 4.61 out of 5 they give it, which I think would be like world class probably according to their rankings.
It's a good ranking.
Yeah, loads of interesting tastes, they say. Haven't had a beer quite like this, which I would agree with.
I completely agree with that too. And I wonder if something, that there is a different flavor profile they could make because they don't have the burden of alcohol in it. So they can experiment with flavor a little more. Because this is unique.
Some like more subtle flavors that would come through because the alcohol is not
possibly
covering it up? Yeah.
I don't know. But this is super unique, which is worth checking out in and of itself. So
I know. I do hope this is available places. I think a lot of these special runs they do aren't widely available. Like they run it for a certain amount of time, and then the only ones that are available everywhere are the heavy hitters, the Run Wild, the Free Wave, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you can always check their website because they're NA. They can ship anything. So if you listen to this close to when this was released, you have a good shot, I guess, of getting the Aftershift. Otherwise,
I don't think this is currently on their website for what it's worth.
Oh, all right. Well, if it comes back, it should come back because it's excellent.
Yeah, totally. I hope they do more. Maybe they'll do more with that Chef Cosentino.
Yeah.
And is that Cold Cans 25 promo code still active, Joe?
Absolutely, folks.
You
bet.
Go
to athleticbrewing.com and enter code ColdCans25. While we do not accept, these do not influence the rankings, the fact that this promo code exists, you'll get 25% off your first order.
Yeah. So right now their website has Run Wild IPA, Upside Down Golden Ale, and All Out Stout. So they don't have this one currently, but I think if you sign up for their pilot program thing, which I don't think it's not like a monthly subscription. I think you can just pick which ones you want. But anyway, then you get access to more of these special runs. So if you're into that kind of stuff, go check it out.
Cold Cans 25 at checkout. All right. And this will not influence the rankings whatsoever.
Never does.
Okay. I would say, one anchor point, if we're going to move into the ranking section, is that
Anchor.fm, they stopped paying us to do ads. Don't mention them, Joe.
Yeah, this is not one.
Anchor.fm has deplatformed us. This is a First Amendment right issue.
Anchor is our parlor parlay. Oh, boy. If we want to ground our rankings in the anywhere, number 25 currently is the Run Wild IPA by Athletic Brewing Company. So that's like the ballpark we went in before, and that is in the Zen 10. And remember, folks, the Zen 10 is a concept spun up by the fictional character Brody Ovac.
That's right.
That I shouldn't say fictional, but the character Brody Ovac who came on the show. And
it's an entertainment podcast. We're all fictional, Joe.
Right. These are brands. Okay. So that's a grounding point. I won't say the A word on this show ever again.
Thank you.
Because they've deplatformed us. There's nothing more un-American than being deplatformed by Anchor.fm.
I've got a bit of a randy suggestion for you. What if, because this beer, like, we will never be able to drink this beer again, most likely. What if we move Run Wild IPA, the other athletic beer we've done, on the rankings, and maybe just throw this in there with it or something, but attribute our ranking and our overall opinion of athletic brewing to Run Wild, currently our number 25 on the list.
So these would merge.
They merge. So
you'd have Run Wild IPA / Athletic Brewing Company's Aftershift. And basically it's a call to action. Stand back and stand by. It's a call to go and check out Athletic. If you're going through the rankings and you're listening, if you're listening to the episodes 1 through 100 on the rankings, which you should. Is this Walter Drunkite? Wait,
no, that's Marv. This is Marv Albert.
Marv Albert. Is there a beer pun with Marv Albert?
Oh,
Marv L beer. Marv.
I suppose. Yeah, we can leave it at that.
Malt. All right. Anyway. Go for it. You have it.
Marvarian Hops Albert. Did it.
Yeah, that's better.
Thank you.
So 1 through 25, then, everyone, I encourage every listener to do, whether you've listened to all our shows or not, if this is the first episode you've listened to, go right now, quit your job, and start listening from the rankings. Beers number 1 through 100, and then everything in Satan's Cooler in Hell is... You could listen to it straight through like that, or you could go Satan's Cooler in Hell up to 1 to build up to it. That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd probably be more fun, honestly.
A lot more fun. I was an idiot for my first suggestion.
You weren't, but
and
I like this idea.
Marvarian Hops Albert? Marv L beer is better than Marvarian.
Of course it
hops.
is. I didn't have anything.
Well, come on. But when you get to 25, you're going to have 2 episodes.
Bar Albert?
When you're doing...
Speaking of Fat Albert and pseudo-French words that we don't know how to pronounce, apparently, in college, I wrote a short story called Fatal Bert, where guys... Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much get what the story is from that.
I genuinely can't.
So Fat Albert, and then I think the story was basically he was a kid in school, and
did you come up with the story before the title, or did you just come up with the idea?
What do you think? What are all my ideas? They're wordplay based.
You wrote a whole
That's
story.
all I have
on shifting letters from Fat Albert. You wrote a whole story.
It was a tragedy, Joe. He kills a kid.
Oh my God.
I know. It's so stupid. But that's what... I killed that kid.
We can't be doing this.
Fat Albert. Oh, American icon. Ruined by me.
I was trying to think if there's some Marv Albert, Fat Albert collaboration. Like Fat Marv Albert could be like a Twitter handle.
Fat Marv Albert?
Yeah. It's Fat Albert and Marv Albert combined.
That's good. Yeah.
Albertsons.
I would almost be surprised if Fat Albert.
Fat Marv Albertsons.
So what do? You buy food from Safeway Albertsons. You watch NBA.
Yeah.
And you have a Fat Albert shirt?
All right.
Or you just go, hey, 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 all the time? That's your catchphrase.
I don't know how we got here.
When you're eating and reviewing Safeway foods.
All right.
What if he was French and his name was Fat Albert?
Is that what you did with your short story?
I don't think I did, but I should have. That would have got me the A.
It would have been better than Fatal Bird. Why did you submitted this for class?
Yeah.
Fatal Bert?
I mean, so in some of those classes, you just have they have a prompt, and you literally write the story in class that day.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what
I
this
see.
is.
So you didn't like take a couple of weeks,
No.
go on a writing retreat.
Oh, that's right.
We're going on a writing retreat.
We're going on a
this
writing
weekend.
retreat.
And we're going to record a couple of cold cans while we're in this cabin.
We should. We absolutely should, though. I will say every time we've ever gone out of town as like a, boys get away, we always say we're going to record, and we never do.
I'll tell you this. Here's my promise
Tell me.
right now. If I'm sitting down and working on a short story and it's based off of a pond of Fat Albert, I'll stop myself and say, I think it'd be a better use of my time at the moment for us to record a cold cans instead of me finishing this story. And I will tell you, I have a fair share of short stories that basically make me feel like that, where I'm like, why am I doing this anymore?
But it's worth doing,
It's
Joe.
worth doing. I'll open that Google Drive of my abandoned orphan stories. Oh, you bet. Okay. When you're listening from 100 all the way up and you get to 25, you're going to have to listen to 2 episodes, folks. Run Wild IPA and what we're tagging onto it right now, Athletic Brewing's Aftershift, non-alcoholic.
So you like
crisp
that idea,
IPA.
Joe?
I love it. It's unprecedented, but I love it.
Implicit assent? Yeah, sure. You love it.
So
unprecedented in love.
Are we then adding, so we have, of course, the alternative method, of course, the new opportunity. What is this? The side, the sister suds, the
Sure, yeah, sister suds is
twins,
fun.
twin changed alcohol. Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're going to come up with a term. We couldn't do it on the fly here on the podcast, where we can attach beers to existing breweries' beers, and they can coexist.
Package deal.
A package deal. A package.
Package pint.
Package pint.
Packed.
No, you got it.
Pints.
It's a package pint. So we have alternative methods, we have new opportunities, and we have package pints. And this is the first ever inaugural package pint at number 25, alongside what was
Run
it?
Wild
Run Wild
IPA.
Yeah. Well,
So a couple of IPAs, from Athletic Brewing.
Yeah, and you can listen to both at the same time.
Listen both at the same time. Wow.
Well, one after another, or simultaneously.
One in the left channel, one in the right channel.
Yeah. So I listen to every podcast. Okay, take us out now. I'm Fatal Bird. Time!